On this day, the 25th of January, 1533, Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn marry. Although it took place in secret, it's believed that Henry VIII's marriage to his second wife, Anne Boleyn, took place on this day in 1533. Anne's rise had been slow, much slower than Henry wanted, costing Cardinal Wolsey his place at the king's right hand and leading to the rupture of England's relationship with the papacy. Anne and Henry are believed to have contracted a marriage in November 1532, soon after returning from France, and many believe that it was after this service that Anne finally agreed to sleep with Henry. She may have fallen pregnant quickly, and in January 1533 it was felt a more legally binding service should be undertaken, though it was still done in secret again. One problem was that despite his best efforts, Henry was still technically married to Catherine of Aragon, having failed to secure an annulment. It wasn't until March 1533 that Thomas Cranmer, a Protestant associate of the Boleyn family who had been appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, formally judged the king's first marriage invalid. Anne was crowned queen in June, and on the 7th of September she gave birth to a child. The fact that it was a daughter might have been a disappointment to Henry, but he remained hopeful of a son. As it turned out, that daughter, Elizabeth, would become one of the most famous monarchs in history. Over the 3 years that followed their marriage, Henry and Anne tried to produce a son, but 3 babies were lost, all believed to have been boys. As Henry's panicked desire for a son increased, and Anne failed to do what he had banked on her to deliver, the couple slipped apart. For my money, Henry decided that Anne had to die, and tasked Thomas Cromwell with making it happen, allowing the king to feign shock when news was released that Anne had cheated on him and even committed incest. I think this had a great deal to do with Henry's religious views, though. He'd grown concerned that his marriage to Catherine of Aragon was cursed because it breached biblical law. I suspect he'd convinced himself that they'd been unable to produce a male heir because of this. He'd married Anne in a rush, perhaps keen to get her into bed and get her pregnant. By doing this, before his marriage to Catherine was properly dealt with, he'd tainted the second marriage too, meaning it could never result in the son he desperately wanted. I think Henry decided the only way to deal with it was a clean break. Catherine had passed away in January 1536. If Anne was gone, Henry would be free from the 2 tainted marriages and able to start again with a clean slate that would hopefully bring him a son. On the 19th of May 1536, Anne was beheaded by a specially imported swordsman. The very next day, carefully avoiding the previous mistake of appearing to overlap marriages, Henry was betrothed to Jane Seymour, marrying her just 10 days later. Within a year, Henry's careful plan to make sure there were no impediments appeared to have worked. Jane was pregnant, and in October 1537 she gave birth to a son. Though she died from complications within weeks, Henry must have felt vindicated, that he'd worked to correct an issue that had caused God to deny him a son and was now being rewarded. Anne may well have died because of Henry's haphazard attitude to marriage and fear that God had seen his errors. Putting it right cost Anne her life, but Henry might well have deemed the son he won from the episode worth it.